Hello, dear learners. Welcome to another session of learning. So, in today's session, we are going to see about the work by Ralph Waldo Emerson, the American scholar. So, this essay, The American Scholar, was delivered as a lecture before the Phi Beta Kappa Society at Harvard College, Cambridge, in the year 1837 on 31st August. So, this essay was later published in the book Nature Addresses and Lectures. So, here we see that, Emerson addresses the top outgoing students of the batch, around 31 gentlemen who, are the topmost students. And here he addresses them and he talks to them about who really, according to him, is the American scholar. So the essay addresses the American scholar, and it also, brings in, an important message that the American scholar should be somebody who is thinking, who is proactive, who's not just bookwormish, who does not restrict his knowledge only to the book. So he also, gives a lot of references in the essay, and he also, encourages the American scholar to have certain attributes. Here he reiterates the fact that the American scholar should no longer follow the world, but should start creating their own creative outputs. So far, the American, gentleman community of the learned have been following the West, especially that of the British, but they should start writing and producing their own work. So, this is a call for the American literary renaissance. So, he talks about the fable about how man is, divided. Just like how the hand is divided into fingers, man also is divided himself, based on the various professions. Society is divided based on the functions and the employment that a person does, like farmer, priest, statesman, scholar. But he tells that, the scholar is somebody who encompasses all the attributes of, different professions. He's a person who thinks beyond and thinks above. He does not restrict himself or confines his thinking to just one occasion, but thinks or stands for the whole society. So the scholar should be somebody who is of thinking caliber. So he should be a man of thinking, and he should not degrade himself by imitating somebody else. He should be a thinker who produces new knowledge, not somebody who just follows old knowledge. And broadly, he says that the American scholar is influenced by various factors, but he specifies on three important factors. First is how the American scholar is influenced by nature. Next, how he's influenced by past. And finally, he talks about how the American scholar should evolve in his action. So when he talks about the influence of nature, he tells that that is the first influence on the scholar's mind. Nature, he tells, is a circular power. It has no beginning and it has no end. Similarly, a man who is seeking God also is, in a circular relationship. And nature, it plays a unifying effect. It affects the soul, it affects the mind of a person. And the soul of a man is similar to the soul of God, because both are like the seal and the print. So he, encourages the scholar to know thyself. He recalls the maxim, that is, he tells that to study nature and to know thyself, they are both the one and the same. They are the same maxim. So, this, he tells, is the influence of nature on an American scholar. Next, he moves on to the influence of past. So, past is all recorded in the books that the scholar reads. And books, he says, are the most important element because they are the record of the past. Books also are immortal truth. And when they are discovered by the scholar, he goes back to the past, he lives the past, he understands the past, and he is able to bring out more thinking from his perspective about the past. And he also talks about how a book of pure thought cannot be written. So no book is perfect because each one's interpretation of their own times is quite different. So each writer's interpretation is quite different about their times. So there is no pure form of writing. There's no right, there's no wrong, and there's no perfect book that can be written because it's an evolving process, and each one adds new dimension and new perspective to the times that they live in. Moving on, he talks about that the scholar needs to have freedom from the slavery of books. So scholars should not be, subdued by the thoughts that are written in the books of the past. Books should just be an instrument that he uses for transforming himself, for transforming his message. It should not confine him to limiting his thoughts. So, for in order to a man to become a man of thinking, he must not be dedicated by books of others. So, he should not just blindly follow the books written by others. Instead, he needs to question them. He needs to ponder on what is written about, the various time periods by the other writers. So, young minds should not be influenced by books that are written by writers, however famous they are. And he also gives one very important a notification about books, which is every age writes its own books. So no two time periods will have the same type of books written. No two time periods will have the same type of writers or the same kind of writings or the same kind of issues. So every age has its own set of books, and so the scholar also should generate new books, new thoughts for his own time period. So the scholar must make use of only what is universal and permanent. So his reference points should be those thoughts that are universal and permanent rather than following everything that has been pre written by the olden writers. So finally, he also tells that the scholar must believe in action. He should not be a recluse. He should not be somebody who distances himself from the community. He should be somebody who acts. He should be somebody who does things. He should not just be a mere thinker. So the scholar should be somebody who puts things into action. So, practical men usually mock at speculative men, and experience makes the raw work for creation. So always the scholar should be somebody who's a practical man. He should not just give guesses. He should not speculate on things. Rather, he should try it out, and from his experiences, he should exponent on what are the good or the bad of what he's tried out. So action is very essential. So action is the transition of thought from unconscious to conscious. So when he has a thought, when the scholar has a thought, only when he puts it in practice or when he puts it in action does it become permanent, does it get a form. So without action, thought cannot ripen into truth. So no truth can be born without action. So just making speculations or making, wild guesses, generalizing things would not work. So working on it, taking action, giving concrete evidence would help establish the truth. So, creative reading helps to look into the heart of things and understand truth. So, he tells that creative reading is essential on the part of a scholar. He moves on to also say that live your life. You know, life is full of difficulties. Difficulties of life, they actually help to mold the person. It helps the scholar to gain wisdom, to get eloquence. And it also helps them, acquire some raw material to create new things, to put into action whatever their thoughts are. So, in the life of a scholar, must learn that dignity and the necessity of labor in order to make him a man of thinking. So, also he specifies some duties of a scholar. So, what are the duties of a scholar? He should have self trust. The scholar must believe in himself. Whatever he tells, he must believe what he's saying is the truth. So, and for that, before that, he has to trust himself. So, self trust is essential. Next, he needs to observe men and life around him. He should be a man of, observation quality should be at the highest for a scholar. He should understand his own mind. He should try to understand others' minds. So here is a point where he talks about empathetic feeling, where a scholar does not just think from his perspective or point of view, but also the point of view of those around him. So he's like a voice, a mind that speaks for others, not just for himself. Then he should also then only he'll be able to express his thoughts in a manner that people will feel he has expressed their thoughts and will like him. So only when he divulges the thinking of others, when he is able to interpret the thinking of others, will others be able to understand what he's trying to say. So these are some of the duties of a scholar. And he also talks about freedom from fear and courage. So a scholar should, rise above. Fear rises from ignorance. So you should be able to rise above his fear. So only when you're ignorant, you are afraid of something. So a scholar should not also be afraid of anything. A scholar should not tolerate hindrances except by his own self. So, he should not be thinking about the hurdles that are brought about by others. It should not stop him. The thing that can only stop him is in himself, and he should work on getting over the things that stop him. And he should be able to face the world boldly and withstand disapproval. There will be people who will criticize, there will be people who would not, go hand in hand with what you think, but the scholar should continue boldly. He should influence people's minds rather than just influencing people. It should directly work on the thinking of people. His thoughts should influence the thinking of others. So, common people, they worship great or heroic men because they see in him the ripening of human potentialities. This is what Emerson says. And he also talks about the spread of idea of culture and basic unity of all. So he says that people seek power and money, and scholars should awaken people and spread the idea of culture. He should talk about the essential need of culture. He should teach the building of a man which includes particular nature of all men. He must also understand and teach the truth that culture is also an essential aspect of society. We must concentrate on the divine that is present in nature and especially in all men. So, these are some of the other important points that Emerson highlights. He also talks about usherings of a golden age. So, different ideas prevail in different ages. So, Emerson believes in their unison. He tells that the present age of introversion is very good because people have started thinking it's a best period in which revolutions can happen, and the scholar is responsible for bringing about this golden period, because the golden period is a period full of limitless possibilities. And the lowest class is also given importance in literature. It also helps to bring about the emergence of a new age. People start giving attention to everyone, not just great writers, but mediocre, or just people who belong to your own space. So he gives some references of some great writers, and then he also talks about Emanuel Swedenborg. He tells that he's a very good scholar and the scholar should follow people like him. Finally, he talks about the focuses of an individual birth and basic unity of all. So the focus on the private life of every single American is very essential, and we should stop looking out to, the outside world, the outside worlds for inspiration, and start listening in turn to himself. He is the hope of the future, who takes contributions from the past and who creates new ideal truth, new by applying reason. And he's also somebody through his efforts and courage will unite man with man and with nature and God. So the American scholar is not just somebody who studies and just goes away. He's somebody who brings about new creative output. He's somebody who unifies the society. He's somebody who brings about culture, brings about new thinking, who unifies man with God, man with nature. So, this is a source that I've used for this PPT. I hope all of you were able to follow about Emerson's thoughts on the American scholar. Thank you. Thank you for joining today's class.